What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Miguelito To Toe, where we talk boxing, the fight game, and everything that happens inside and outside the ring. Today, we're stepping away from the professional boxing world and taking a look at a movie that reminds us that sometimes the biggest fights don't happen underneath bright lights. The movie is called They Fight. And let me tell you something right off the bat. This movie isn't really about winning boxing matches. It's about what boxing can do for somebody's life. So today, we're going to break down They Fight. What I liked, what I didn't like, the boxing, the characters, the message, and most importantly, is this movie worth watching? Let's get into it. Before we go any further, this is your spoiler warning. I'm going to be talking about the story, the characters, and some of the major developments throughout the movie. So if you haven't watched They Fight yet and you want to go in completely fresh, pause this video, go watch the movie, then come back to Miguelito To Toe. You've been warned. They Fight follows Walt Manigan, played by Andre Holland. Walt is a former boxer and coach who has just gotten out of prison. He's trying to rebuild his life, reconnect with his family, and figure out where he fits in now that he's back home. And that's where boxing comes back into his life. Walt gets involved with the youth boxing program in Southeast Washington, D.C. And instead of just training these kids to throw punches, he's trying to give them something bigger: discipline, direction, confidence, and most importantly, an opportunity. The young fighters are working towards the junior national championships, and the story eventually builds towards two young friends, Quincy and Peanut, finding themselves on a collusion course. And that's where the movie really starts asking an interesting question. What happens when two friends want the same dream? Now let's talk about the boxing, because obviously this is Miguelito To Toe. I'm not here just to review the acting. I want to know, does the boxing look good? And overall, I think the movie does a pretty good job of making the boxing feel like amateur boxing, rather than turning every fight into some Hollywood super fight. That's important. These aren't professional champions. They're young fighters still learning. They're making mistakes. They're getting tired. They're emotional. And they're still developing their style. That's something I appreciated. The movie understands that boxing isn't just about throwing the hardest punch. It's about learning how to control yourself, learning how to listen, learning how to deal with pressure, and learning how to lose. Because that's something boxing teaches you very quickly. You don't always get the results you want. Andre Holland's Walt is probably the most interesting character in the movie because he's not some perfect boxing coach. He's a man who's made mistakes. He's been to prison. He's trying to repair relationships. And he's trying to prove that his past doesn't have to determine his future. That's what makes his relationship with these young fighters work. He's not just telling them, don't make mistakes. He's basically telling them, I've made mistakes, don't let mine become yours. That's powerful. Because a good boxing coach isn't just teaching you how to throw a jab. A good coach can completely change the direction of your life. And that's where I think the title They Fight becomes even more meaningful. Because everybody in this movie is fighting something. The kids are fighting for their dreams. Walt is fighting for redemption. The gym is fighting to stay open. Families are fighting to stay together. And the community is fighting against circumstances that are bigger than any individual person. So when you look at it that way, the boxing matches are almost the smallest fights in the movie. The biggest fight is life itself. Let's talk about what I liked. Number one, the message. The movie shows boxing as more than violence. It shows boxing as structure, as mentorship, as community, as an opportunity for young people. Number two, the performances. Andre Holland does a really good job carrying the emotional side of the story, while Wendell Pierce brings a veteran presence as Slim. And the young fighters give the movie a lot of its energy. Number three, the realism. This doesn't feel like a movie where everybody suddenly becomes a world champion after montage number three. The journey is much more grounded, and I appreciate that. Now, it wasn't perfect, and I'm not going to sit here and act like it was. The biggest issue for me is that the movie sometimes tries to tell too many stories at once. You've got Walt's personal journey, you've got the young fighters, you've got the gym, you've got the community, you've got family issues, you've got the championship, and sometimes all of those storylines are fighting for the same amount of screen time. That makes parts of the movie feel a little crowded. I also think some of the emotional moments are a little too obvious. You can sometimes see exactly where the movie wants you to feel something. And when a movie pushes the emotion too hard, sometimes it actually takes away from the emotion. But those are more storytelling problems than boxing problems. One of the biggest lessons I took from the fight is that boxing can give somebody purpose. Think about that. You walk into a boxing gym and you might think you're there to learn how to fight, but you could actually be learning how to live. You're learning discipline, you're learning patience, you're learning how to take criticism, you're learning how to lose without giving up, and you're learning how to get knocked down and get back up. That's boxing. So, would I recommend a fight? Yes, but I want to make something clear. If you're looking for a non-stop boxing movie with huge professional fights, this probably isn't that movie. But if you're looking for a movie about boxing redemption, mentorship, and second chances, then the fight is worth checking out. For me, I'm going to give the fight a 7.5 out of 10. It's not a perfect boxing movie, but it doesn't need to be. Because the real strength of this movie isn't the punches, it's the people, it's the relationships, and it's the idea that sometimes the right coach can change the entire direction of a person's life. And that's what I took away from the fight. Everybody has something they're fighting. Some people fight opponents, some people fight their past, some people fight their circumstances, and some people are just fighting to become a better version of themselves. That's why boxing is bigger than the ring. And that's why I think this movie fits perfectly here on Miguelito To Toe. So if you've seen They Fight, I want to hear from you. Did you like the movie? Did you think it represented boxing realistically? And most importantly, what did you rate it? Drop your rating in the comments. If you enjoyed this episode, hit the like button, subscribe to Miguelito To Toe, and turn on those notifications. Until next time, keep your hands up, keep your chin down, and I'll see you toe to toe.